my name's Emily Kaufman, and this is the Elden Pueblo. It's located just a couple miles outside of Flagstaff, and we have Mount Elden, just about a fourth of a mile that way. And this is where the ancient Sinagua people lived. They are believed to be ancestors of the Hopi people. And right here we have their common room, and I'm standing in the doorway right now, but the doorway wasn't originally here. It was added later during excavation. And originally, these walls would have been about 8 feet higher, and people would have come in through the ceiling, which is interesting because at one point they estimate you can fit about 200 people in this room. And they're not sure what it may have been used for, political gatherings, rites of passage. They are not entirely
sure.
I'm Kelly
Mulray, and as Emily was saying earlier, I'm standing in the common room of the Sinagua people, who resided here between 1050 and 1280 AD. Some more interesting facts about the common room that I'm standing in are the holes over here and also over here, and they were used to bring in oxygen to help the fire for use for light and heat stay lit. Some other interesting artifacts in the room are these two rocks over here. This, if you look closely, which I don't think you can see from the camera, it is chipped into the carving, which looks like an eagle. And then we have this very large boulder that was found just like that, and it's said to either be the nest of the eagle or the earth. And not the earth as we know it, but the earth with the snow. This site is estimated to have between 60 to 70 rooms.
Hi, my name is Ariel. I'm standing in front of one of the still standing rooms at the Elden Pueblo. There used to be about 60 or 70, but only about half are standing. A room this size would usually accommodate a family of 5, a mom, a dad, and on average about 3 children.
Standing in front of one of 2 kivas on site. The kivas were used for offerings or many other things that we're not quite sure. This is a really good example of how this site is still going under archaeological excavation still today. There's still a lot they haven't discovered, so that's one very interesting fact about this area.
Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm standing in front of a couple of the pit houses that were here before the pueblos were built by the Sinagua. One of the strange things about this is that pit houses generally are more of a temporary dwelling, whereas pueblos are more long-term. This would lend credence to the idea that perhaps the Sinagua people weren't really thinking this area could sustain them long-term. But after they got the pit houses set up, maybe they found that this area could sustain them. There's water close enough by, there's food, and the weather isn't so treacherous that they wouldn't be able to stay here long term, and that's why they built the pueblos. So the pit houses ended up becoming obsolete, but it's kind of interesting that they were even here at all because they're such a temporary dwelling.
Okay, so not only were the Sinagua hunters and gatherers, but they also planted their own crops. And the 3 crops that they were best known for was corn, beans, and squash. And at this time, the ground was pretty fertile because it laid in the banana belt, which means that most of the crops, although nowadays maybe they wouldn't be so easy to grow, or even back then they wouldn't think so, they grew pretty well, and they were able to produce a fair amount of grains and vegetables, even though the growing season was pretty short. But they didn't just live off of those things, they also hunted their own game.
The game that they hunted was elk, antelope, fox, some smaller animals, rabbits, even some small birds. Wow, that's cool. What is that?
That would be a grinding rock. The reason this grinding rock is cool is because it's really the only evidence that things were actually created here and not traded in. What these grooves here are for is for making axe heads. You can tell they're not for making things like pigment or anything like that because they're not as shallow as those grooves would be. These are a lot deeper, and one of the interesting things about this is an axe head was found on this site that fits perfectly into this groove right here.
That's cool.
That
Awesome.
is pretty amazing.
Pretty awesome, guys. There's also evidence of there being
here, there are some burials, and at this site there's upwards of 180 burials, I believe, and some of the people are buried with shells and bones, just various grave goods, pretty much to show their importance within the community. And also, there aren't a lot of children buried here. It just seems to be adults, and both male and female. But they're not exactly sure what this means, whether or not the kids were sent somewhere else during their young adulthood. They're not exactly certain. But what they do know is there's not a lot of kids buried.
This place is awesome!
Word. Okay, so we're back in the common room here, and something we didn't mention earlier is that the Elden Pueblo is one of the only sites, if not the only site, in the area that has a big meeting room like this. Although there are many other pueblos within 20-30 miles, this is the only one that has a room like this. So they think that this may have been a place to meet not only for this tribe, but for all of the different groups all around this entire area. And this is really somewhere that if they had political issues to discuss, they could come here and get everything sorted out.
Yeah, and this kind of brings us to our area on trade. Trade was very important to the Sinagua people. People who've been working on the site have found things such as macaw skeletons, which are from Mexico, and the Sinagua people also traded things like obsidian, and they traded for things such as shells. Overall, trade was a very important aspect of the Sinagua tribe, and just how they made their living day to day. For listening today, we hope you had a great time.
We sure did! Thanks for listening.
You guys are the best.